Yeah, especially since you're just focusing on this jungle matchup a lot. Of course, there are a lot more junglers than just Rek'Sai, Gragas, and Elise. Maybe in Italy as well, but I don't even want to see that champion. Not today, at least.
No more farming. We want to see some early CC. We want to see some team fighting. No more poke. Alistair taken off the board. Dara, gotta wonder what he's going to go for next here. Sivir similarly taken away. Now, we haven't gotten the chance to talk about it much, but historically, Maron has been, a very strong player for this lineup, and Japan known for the strength of their AD carries. Yutapon, Maron, these guys who have always been able to put up good numbers. Curious to see what he's going to opt for this time around. Jhin, Ashe still available. Lucian as well if he looks for early lane dominance.
A lot being taken out here. Of course, a lot of respect being given on this Talia and Alistar as well. INTZ don't want to even see it.
Yep. You can see Rek'Sai Gangplank taken away as well, but Nara is still up and available. What is going to be the final ban?
It almost feels like you have to. Oh, okay, Vladimir. Nara is still available, as you said.
I
and
can't
not a lot
imagine
of picks you can go against him.
I can't imagine anything other than the Nara being picked up here. In the past, I thought it was just a solid top lane pick, but watching it succeed in every single region makes me feel like there's just not a whole lot of opportunities to play against it. But Shen also left up and available.
Thing about Nara too is that technically should have some good matchups up against him, like Aurelia, but Frozen Mallet really does change the situation where, sure, his mini-Gnar, that's his weakest point, but once he's in mini-Gnar, he has a lot of opportunities to really re-engage on you. Put some answer damage on you. So yeah, as Karma comes through.
Karma, an interesting kind of shift in first pick. Not something we've seen priority on 615, of course, seeing pretty massive nerfs, I would say, in her kit. But if there are, of course, two very strong top laners left open, so maybe INTZ just knowing that they're going to get something out of the exchange, shift their priority elsewhere. Rampage completing their first rotation as they lock in both the Jhin and the Shen.
Really good pickups from Rampage. I do agree with them. Not too happy about the Karma. Karma can, of course, go towards the support or the mid lane position. We've seen Karma coming out of a few teams. If they are on specific compositions, I just don't agree with it in first pick.
Yeah, I think we can safely say a questionable pick, but what we've learned from this tournament is definitely that sometimes comfort is more valuable than raw power, and Karma by no means a bad pick after her nerfs, just not, I would argue, not first pick worthy anymore. However, the flex pick, of course, still having value. Can go into the mid lane or the bot lane, and INTZ are going to pick up the Gnar, and this is, I know in theory that Shen has a solid matchup there, that Shen can do well against the Gnar, but just watching this champion rise in popularity has me worrying for Rampage's early game.
Yeah, well, as you said, it's a decent matchup for Shen, and on top of that, Shen's going to be playing towards the rest of the composition. So I'm a fan of the Shen pick overall. That's the only real pick that I do want to see over Gnar. At least getting locked in is going to be interesting, especially since we do see that Karma pick. So you have to expect that the Karma could just be going support.
Still opportunity to pick the mid laner or RP. Where are they going to save this final pick for? Could give it over to support. We have seen a decent amount of flexibility. And on those melee supports, Taric, Tom Kench, Braum, all left up and available. But it looks like they're going to save that last pick for the jungle, for Tussle.
That's interesting because there's a lot of which ways he can go. He's shown quite a bit in his pool. And on top of that, he's going up against an Elise. So if he does have good enough lanes, and with the Shen protection, that does open up certain assassin picks. As I said, perhaps Rengar, perhaps Kha'Zix. We've seen a lot. I'm not too sure about what Tussle is willing to play, though, of course.
I like how your mind is Rengar Kha'Zix.
I'm just like
how there's
locked
like a
into
Lee Sin, there's a Gragas. You're like,
I don't want to see it. I mean, of course, I do want to see Lee Sin. I love the fact that he picked it on early.
Rengar Kha'Zix.
Rengar Kha'Zix. Give it to me.
I mean, that's the dream.
It is.
But I think both teams really mulling over their options here. INTZ, they're going to have to pick something. Looks like it will be the Cassio, although they're still taking time on this one. Still got an opportunity. May have a decent matchup into the Malzahar, but Malzahar, Braum locked in for Rampage. They've got a solid front line here with the Braum Shen. It's going to be difficult to get onto those backline threats.
Yeah, the counter engage coming out of INTZ is going to be incredibly strong. They're going to be a good force if they have the positioning. If they have positioning on Dragon, if they have positioning on Baron, you can never really walk up to them. That's going to be a problem. So it's going to be up to Jin to really push them off with ulti if that ever does come about. Gragas would be an amazing pick because you do want to force them away from it, just force some dispersion, some disengage really. Because right now INTZ's only real engage tool is going to be that Gnar.
Of course, some pick potential with Revolta on this Elise, but you know, honestly, flash body slam into that cask is just such a solid early game pick tool, and that ultimate remains relevant at every stage of the game. Rampage are going to lock it in, gift that one over to Tussle. Interesting lock-ins on both sides here, though. INTZ taking a bot lane that we haven't seen in a while. Yellow Star and Reckless, very big fans of the Sona Ezreal. Very safe, not Sona Ezreal, sorry, Karma Ezreal.
There we go.
No one's a fan of the Sona in competitive play right now, just a little too squish. Solo queue All-Star, though. But, you know, a powerful lane on previous patches, but both these champions kind of muscled out by the utility AD carries or melee support picks.
Yeah, a lot of scaling coming out of INTZ on top of that. But they will have a strong team fight. Just comes down to the fact that Rampage have greater skirmish, greater early game power coming out of them, so they can get the decent amount of picks going their way. Sure, of course, INTZ have Elise, but the Braum, Jin, Gragas, Malzahar, all of them really will force Cassio into a situation where perhaps she has to go QSS. So, she has to worry about her lane because she's going to be shoving up. It's a good matchup for her, but the fact it's a good matchup could be a bad thing because if you're shoving into Malzahar, you're going to be getting a few visits from Gragas.
Yeah, relatively easy, I think, for both sides to set up some chain CC here. Elise into the Cassio, Gragas into the Malzahar, or vice versa on either side. So a lot of potential to snowball out here.
Going to have to expect a lot of skirmishes, a lot of fights centered around this mid lane, perhaps at level 6, level 8 area. Jin going to be looking to help out as well because right now, sure, Malzahar is in a losing lane and a losing position, but he's going to have a lot of help from the rest of his team, specifically Tussle. And if Talkers gets taken down, if Cassiopeia is in a poor position, then that really does put INTZ's composition as a whole, their team fighting, into a very awkward state where they just don't have damage.
Honestly, there's just so many questions on both sides here. Of course, we're going to focus in on the jungle no matter what because these two junglers are both, you know, top tier in their respective region. Excellent playmakers on both sides, but the mid lane as well. Talkers, you know, playing the Cassio here versus the Malzahar. This is where the junglers could shift their attention. And now Dara's getting aggressive here. Jockstra with one stack that concussive blows, but there goes the passive. Turning, that's a lot of early damage from the Karma. Roki taking a decent amount, but Rampage just looking to walk away. Macau, Ezreal level 1, very potent here. Karma looking for a bit more damage. Maron just going to get chunked out, but no summoners burned on either side.
You have to walk all the way back. Macau is going to be able to poke them out completely, and it's 120. So if they ever get stopped, that could just be that'll be really bad in terms of just they won't be able to hit the wave first. So the bottom lane is going to be in an awkward position where Ezreal and Karma going to get to level 2 first.
And here's the thing, is that Ezreal not exactly known for a strong early game, not exactly known for, you know, when he buys that tier for getting ahead. But before anyone has items, Ezreal is a gross laner to play against.
He really is, especially up against Jin now. Jin generally is a stronger laner up against Ezreal, especially once he starts to get his long swords going for him. Meanwhile, Macau will be looking to get the tier, but some players are rather comfortable with Ezreal versus Jin simply because, A, he's going to look to scale up, but more importantly, a lot of poke coming out of Macau. Maron won't be able to really dodge out of it.
Yeah, and of course you're playing against the Karma Ezreal as well, so the double range making it so difficult for Dara to have the impact, and the vote's surprisingly close here. They are in Brazil, and INTZ only 15% ahead. The fans of the LJL coming in strong.
Yeah, a lot of pride there. Really surprising, of course. As you said, all of Brazil must be awake right now.
Yeah. I mean, this is their region. This is their time zone. Japan is staying up.
It would be a shame.
Or getting up early, I suppose. Time zones are confusing.
That's true. I have no idea. I don't even know what time it is right now.
I don't either.
So
we live a half-life, Raz. We wake up for the show, we go to bed for the next show.
You know, sometimes life needs to be that simple.
Well, but Revolta looking to make a bit of an impact here in the jungle. Tussle is going to get stunned up. Revolta, a good opportunity to go in. Karma coming up as well. INTZ, he wants to get the barrel. He is going to get the blue buff flash out. No! First blood going over to Jockster. The double buff transfer to the Karma.
And that really all bled over from the level 1. Bot lane could not help. They were getting shoved in. Jockster is going to be able to get there first. They know that 100%. Revolta is just going to be able to abuse the already poor matchup of Elise versus Gragas. And so this is already looking fairly poor for Rampage, just from that one small mistake in level 1. So that's great on INTZ to really snowball that really tiny advantage.
Yeah, and of course, red buff going to make it the harass is coming in that much more lethal, that much more spammable. As you can see, Maron just losing so much health in that small exchange, but things across the board are looking very good for INTZ, not only coming out ahead in the jungle matchup, getting those double buffs away from the early Gragas clear, but also a decent lead on the top side of the map. 4 CS, not a slouch, and you can see that the mid lane really the only even point at this early stage of the game.
Exactly, and so what was already a fairly difficult matchup for Jhin, this is that much harder. I mean, he's just going to be getting poked down initially regardless, but the fact that he has to deal with a blue buff, like a double buff support up against, he's just getting zoned out of the wave entirely.
Oh, things are looking grim for the Malzahar, though. Keep your eyes on that map. You can see that 2 lanes are winning for INTZ, and 1 lane is very clearly pushed in RPG, as it's Roki is drawing a map for Revolta, saying, please come here. Revolta instead going to spend some time in the jungle, moving his way up, support to back him up as well, but the Wolf Spirit going to spot him out.
A great decision from Revolta. Even though this mid lane position, yeah, sure, it's an easy target, but Tussle, if you target down Tussle, then of course the only winning lane of Roki, he's not going to be able to walk over and help him. Sure, he has the ability to, but he does not want to deal with the force of INTZ's bottom lane just saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, this is our jungle now.
I mean, it really seems that way. The Wolf Spirit may be keeping him safe for now, but you can see the vision already littered up there. And Talker's now finally starting to be able to push this one back. Twin Fang killing the minions before they can really start pushing the wave.
And the thing is, even though that was initially a shoving lane, Cassio into Malzahar is really bad for Melz. Won't be able to take out, even before the nerf, honestly. Won't be able to skirmish Cassio. Most champions can't, and just gets out pushed as well.
And things are looking pretty grim here in the early game for RPG. It's been a struggle for most teams to come back from early deficits, and INTZ already with a 1K gold lead. Mid lane starting to swing in their favor, top lane as well, bottom lane clearly in their favor.
Mm-hmm. There's one win from Rampage, and it did come off of a deficit early. They're a team that, regardless of their deficit, they do have a strong mental, and they can come back. This one's fairly difficult.
Interesting, too, as the itemization starts to come in. Revolta, early purchase on the Boots of Lucidity, a lot more mobility for this Elise.
He will look to need it. He needs to start to track down Tussle. If he can find Tussle, then that will secure Cassio's push. Cassio does need that secure push because, of course, he's going to be the main attraction for Gragas.
Bringing him in. He's just excited about snakes.
Oh, why wouldn't you be?
Of course, Cassio building up a pretty large CS lead as well. Malzahar going to catch that wave and start to even it up, but I mean, leads building across the board. And as you kind of predicted, outside of this Elise and Gragas matchup, it's been a relatively passive early game. Both Gnar and Shen seemingly content to farm, and Maron and Dara far too much on the back foot to make too much of an impact.
Shock's are able to find Tussle on that, but yeah, exactly. Revolta right now is doing an incredible job at just targeting down where Tussle is. Both teams really are comfortable with just playing it safe early. Most teams, if they're that far back in Rampage's position, they would look to just actively make plays at any point to just draw skirmishes, get something working for them, maybe look for an outplay or two. Right now, Tussle's just not going to be in that position to do anything. He is as visible as any other laner.
Getting aggressive here on the bottom side. Macau goes back to buy a tier, and instantly the lane pressure starts to shift back in the favor, especially with Karma Dawn. But Tussle, he's going to have to flash out to safety. I think maybe a little bit too eager to recoup his early losses, and now caught between a rock and a hard place. How's he going to make his way out? Revolta is there. Has to throw down a little bit of CC. Decent amount of damage. Malzahar coming in. Shen as well, but Tussel's still just going to walk this one off.
Down goes Shen ulti from Paz. That's going to be really impactful. Sure, he doesn't even have the TP either. He must have just TP'd to lane when doing so. So that's going to be a big blow to Rampage. Another problem. Yang's going to be able to have, sure, a TP advantage, but he can just look to consistently shove as well. There's not right now. INTZ is in such a good position that sure they can look for a dive bottom lane. Sure they can look for perhaps a dive mid as well. But if Revolta is going to have full control of Paz's, full control of Tussel's jungle, then might as well keep doing that.
Well, we're talking about full control here, and Revolta is making his mark on the map. INTZ is still just taking small advantages. And as we look at it, yes, the lanes are winning for INTZ, and yes, Revolta is making his name known, but he's falling behind in jungle CS by a decent margin, so Greg is slowly going to work towards out-itemizing him, however. I mean, really, that's not much, as Gnar is absolutely dominating the top lane in terms of farm, and the mid lane is continuing to grow in the favor of Cassio.
Yeah, that's just a bit of an expectation, at least going up against Gragas. Tussle was fairly smart in finding camps to farm out. He knew that Revolta was going to be tracking him, and so he ended up going towards this counter jungling. Though, of course, as I said, he found Droxter, had to blow his flash. But overall, even though Tussle has been getting his camps, or at least his buffs in general, he's been finding farm. But the fact that he is known, the fact that he is constantly seen, not good at all.
No, and a bad point. Yang, perfect charge on the Rage. Does miss the taunt. Yang just going to look to knock him into the wall. The flash out, not enough. Paz not going to be able to dash to safety. Tussle going to be the next to fall. A quick, clean dive coming in for INTZ, but not as clean as they wanted, as a kill is traded back.
Yeah, he tried to flash out of the tower range. Not out, not exactly out, but they're going to get this first tower gold on top of that. That's just massive, regardless of whether or not Yang came out of that one alive.
And a desperate push in the mid lane coming in from Roki, but it is simply too little too late. The gold lead explodes in the favor of INTZ. 3K at the 10-minute mark. First blood, first tower, and an additional 2 kills picked up here.
And it got split between Elise and Cassio, but Cassio looking to go for Abyssal on top of that tier. Gonna be so impactful for him, able to just bully out this matchup from here on out.
And honestly, Paz just misses the taunt here, and at this stage, the flash out is too little too late, because the second that miasma comes down, there is no option to escape. And I mean, just a fumble coming in from INTZ to give up that kill, and a bit of a reprieve for RPG, but that's a rough life.
This is exactly the game INTZ needed. Like after the last game up against Lion, they must have felt at least a little bit of comfort seeing Lion smash the last game, because realize, hey, you know what? They aren't that bad. That wasn't that much of a loss. And now finally going up against Rampage and taking this early game at the very least so decisively, it's a great comfort point. They can't be too comfortable. You have a lead, you have to shove it forward.
Of course, Rampage, a team known to swing things back once they start to get into the team fighting, something they've been able to execute on so well, but INTZ looking on point in this matchup, looking to redeem themselves, you know?
Yeah, and Talker's able to end up finishing up that Abyssal Scepter. It's going to be very impactful. Malzahar cannot walk up into the lane, has to back in the end of the day because he just didn't have much mana. It's still going to be fine for Malzahar. He's going to be shoving the lane and walking away entirely, but that just means Talker's has that much more of an ability of taking the skirmishes if required, taking a dive if Elise finds it fit, and just roaming bot side.
But still so much freedom for Revolta to really roam wherever he wants, clearing out the vision across the board, and now the Mountain Drake going to be started up. However, looks like they will be spotted out by that ward. Ping's coming down. An opportunity maybe for Tussle to turn this.
Yeah, but they're not taking damage here for this dragon.
No, yeah, Elise and Cassio just so good at taking this one down. Looks like they are just going to give it up. No hopes on the steal there. Talker's speeding in, but Tussle just going to take the pink ward and walk on out.
Yeah, so that could have... Oh, they're not done, actually. Okay, they're coming in as a group. This tower has been chipped down quite a bit.
They are spotted out by the vision, but it's not stopping Jockster and Revolta from moving up. Maybe looking to start a siege here. Roki, very vulnerable. Nerfs to that Malzahar passive, something we have to talk about it, making it so much easier to coordinate those dives to shut down that that pushing pressure that Malzahar can put in, but
it's that much harder as Tussle or Roki when you constantly have a Karma walking at your face. And so one thing that it's happened a few times already this game, Macau getting left alone. Wait, I have to
JCC
say
going
that.
in, is still going to get it out. Buffers that arcane shift, is going to make it to safety. A lot of poke coming down. Right now, Jin, of course, just able to dish out so much more damage than the Ezreal.
Yeah, but Rampage, they need to start actually outputting the pressure, and that was a good example of them doing it. They, of course, they weren't going to be able to get a kill, but that's something. Jockster, as I said, has been roaming out quite a lot, been making it very hard for Tussle to counter jungle or to do much at all.
Tussle moving in, Tussle moving out. Doesn't want to stick around to get poked down by Revolta, but Revolta here to respond to the plights on the bottom side. Samaron starts to siege up. Braum not going to block out the ultimate there, though. Means that the siege is going to be stopped in its track, and meanwhile, the pressure on top is almost overwhelming for Paz, a player that we praised for his proficiency in team fighting, but currently getting beaten out by this insanely aggressive Gnar, almost a 40 CS lead in favor of Yang.
Yeah, exactly. Went for that black cleaver as well, so he's just trying to do as much damage just to look to completely split him out, take as much chip damage on this turret. So Shen really, the opportunity cost of him looking to go bottom lane, it's a bit too high if Yang's going to be just completely shoving him in and just taking as much damage on this turret.
Yeah, Paz has to be careful. The power of the double globals is strong, but knowing that if he ever leaves his lane, that tower will drop, really putting all of Rampage on the back foot.
And a big point of this too is that if right now he can't even look for an opportunity of going bottom lane. If Rampage try, it better be a good attempt, because Macau and Jockster on, quite honestly, the slippiest, most slippery bottom lane I've ever seen. Karma and Ezreal.
They're just safe. You're not killing anybody. We saw there.
You're not going to die.
Ezreal, of course, a ridiculously frustrating champion to try to kill because he can just buffer that E.
Mm-hmm.
You push that button, you start that animation, you're making it out.
Yeah, so the strength top side for INTZ it's fairly safe because that's what Revolta is going to be playing towards. There's no point to be playing towards his bottom side unless if there's a point where the tower is just going to get threatened. So a really smart draft coming out of INTZ, and they're playing it very well ever since they've got that lead in level 1.
Oh, and this is not a good spot to be. So the Rift Herald buff does go down. That's 20 minutes that Yang is going to have an even bigger lead over the opposition. Gnar, one of the most frustrating champions to play against with Rift Herald. His range making it easy to proc that damage. But despite the advantages built up, Rampage aren't hesitating to push in here for a bit of deeper vision.
Exactly.
Maybe hoping to find a pick.
And at 15 minutes too, getting that Rift Herald is going to last just that much longer. Scales incredibly well levels, so it's just going to be that much harder to deal with. And if you're a Shen, you really want to be able to escape this lane. And you can tell that Tussle's trying to create that option, but it's going to be very hard, and has to start with Marin start just channeling that ulti and perhaps looking for a dive. It looks like very impossible. Revolta's just reading their movements.
An interesting adaptation coming in here in the Ezreal build, going for the early Iceborne Gauntlet. Kind of identifying that he's the losing lane, offering utility potentially to the rest of the team, and just knowing that he's going to keep the Jhin busy while the rest of his team just wins across the board.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like they're going in on this.
Oh, here comes the TP. Dar just going to flash to safety. Interesting choice, giving up a lot of pressure on the top side.
Mm-hmm.
No dragon to take either.
Yeah, they had no ability to lock them down on that one.
Miasma stopping any potential flash ult to come in from Roki.
Worst thing about all of
still
that.
on the wrong side. Oh, flash forward, looks for the ult. Roki trying to make his way out of this one. Shen coming in as well. Silence drops down. INTZ now pushing in the mid lane, maybe looking for this tower.
Yeah, they're going to try for it. This tower is fairly low.
Okay, taking
Not
a bit
much
of
of
damage.
a wave.
Paz on the way in. Roki flashing forward onto Revolta. The chain CC coming in. Curtain call on the backside, and it will be curtains for Revolta as he gets cut down. Excellent execution coming in for Rampage. No opportunity for INTZ to respond, but Macau looking to change that as he pushes in on the bottom side.
Yeah, really well played. It was just an awkward situation for INTZ to be in, and they're just starting to slip up ever since that TP.
TP. Shen on the way in goes the snare, not going to connect as Macau makes it out to safety, but Tussle does not care. Knocked into the wall. Chain CC comes in. Rinse and repeat on the gangs. Rampage finding a way back into the game, but Yang is here, and so is Talkers. Ezreal coming in. So much damage down onto the team. They're trying to make it to safety. Paz waiting for an opportunity out. So many low health bars. Maron dishing out the damage. INTZ looking to turn this. They pick up one. Looking to make it two. Yang backing off, but it is a bloodbath here on the bottom side.
Yeah, nice return kill. Might even look to take this tower. Definitely need it to at least return some of that gold value that they lost. But that was a really great pick from our Rampage. That was really well done in the mid lane, and of course a good response just instantly going bottom lane. Just great TP response from Paz.
And excellent play overall. Maybe a little too aggressive on the second pick there. Looking to double down, looking to, shrink the advantage that INTZ has even more. But INTZ get it back. Managed to pick up that kill onto Roki and take the bottom lane tower as well. Now getting an Infernal Drake. I mean, across the board, there's so many people building AP and AD. This is a perfect pickup for INTZ.
Yeah, exactly. And while this is going back and forth, INTZ still sticking up ahead in this game. 18 minutes in is still a positive for them. They are still scaling up with their tiers, and Ezreal just went back to get a Mana Moon. So he's going to be in a good position to just hopefully get to that point where he's going to be dealing a lot of damage.
Looking forward. I think there's a lot of people in this game who are going to be dishing out a lot of damage. Interesting adaptation, though, from Talkers. Does opt to pick up the QSS here. Gets that first item and immediately goes for it. Doesn't want to get any opportunities to Roki to pick him off. And things look really good for INTZ right now.
Yeah, I mean, Talkers is really blessed to have Revolta that far ahead and constantly tracking
Tussle. This is not what you wanted. Trying to make his way out. Team is there to back him up. No flash on the Gragas. But 4 members strong from Rampage. Going to make sure nothing else is going to happen.
Yeah, not going to be able to use this push because of how low Tussle is.
Tussle heals up a bit from the passive there on the Gragas, as well as the jungle item. However, Gnar constantly threatening on the bottom side. Revolta moving up. They're collapsing onto Paz, and Paz just now backing off, but is it too little too late?
Yeah, globally, we've been seeing a lot of QSS coming out of champions that shouldn't normally get that QSS. Of course, Cassio will just gonna stop at the QSS, and on top of that, I do expect Ezreal and possibly Gnar too, so we can at least secure a Gnar engage on top of that, so he doesn't get zeroed in on and just taken down immediately.
Interesting too. Tussle going to take back some of his own jungle. Checking in on the difference, of course, still about a 4K gold lead in favor of INTZ, buffed up by the Infernal and the Mountain Drake. But looking into that mid lane matchup, looking into that QSS, it seems to me like if Malzahar ever tries to ult you, ever goes for that staring contest, you can just instant QSS ult him, because you know he's facing you. You know he's looking you dead in the eye.
Exactly. And on top of that, Cassio has always been a really good matchup into Malzahar, simply because she can have that instant response. Can always output that ulti moment Malzahar even looks for that stare, for that one glare.
Yeah. You got to choose between Medusa and Scary Void Man in a staring contest. I'd pick Medusa, just as a general rule.
She has more of a thick history in staring contests.
It's true. Scary Void Man, a little bit more unknown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right now INTZ are just really comfortable in this position, and Ezreal is the fact that he's in this point, 20 minutes in, hasn't really been touched in lane, has had solo experience for a little bit. That's going to be working out well for him. He's going to be doing a lot of damage, and they're just going to be honestly at this point, they're just going to be looking towards getting this mid lane tower. The moment they can get this mid tower, with how much pressure they've been putting in sides, they can really start to unlock this game and put our Rampage in a lot more of a tough position.
Yeah,
just supporting their jungle.
I mean, and currently the path seems easy for Rampage. Protect mid, stall out, try to farm up, clear the waves on each side. But once that mid lane's open, much harder to be safe in your own territory, much harder to push out, and potentially more options for INTZ to push for more.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to really threaten from either sides, even if they get a pink on one side or not. It depends on Gnar, but it feels like it's fairly easy. With Cassiopeia on as well, you put down that Miasma, you can get a lot of chip down damage on this tower.
Yeah, ult comes out from Dara to make sure that they can't get it on that wave, but another creep wave just seconds away, and they don't really have any wave clear options left. Pings go down, and Talkers moving into the jungle will get spotted out. Revolta going to see that ward. Now shifting their pressure to the top side. Rampage have to be careful where they move. They're going to have to give up something here.
But they do have to start challenging for this. They really do. If they allow their own jungle to get completely taken away from them, they lose the ability to really take picks, and that's all they really are hoping for at this point.
Talkers sidesteps there on the winner's bite, but Yang, while everyone else is playing a battle over control on the top side, he owns the bottom side. Paz just has to wait for the wave to reach him.
Yeah, and that tower in the bot side is already half HP, so right now, a Rampage are in a time game. Sure, you lost mid lane. That's going to be really destructive because INTZ have full autonomy, full control of your jungle. They already had those pinks. Now they have the extra ability to protect them. You have no way to really extend that far away from the next set of towers. So Rampage, they have to play it safely, and that means that this red buff is now INTZ's.
And it just gets scarier too. Ezreal finishing up their Muramana, making it that much. Just doing that much more damage. Duskblade, of course, not too far away from Meron. But it just gets harder.
He just keeps taking chips. That tower's down. Goodbye. There we go.
It just feels to me like Rampage are bleeding out, and INTZ are more than happy to just kind of sit back and watch it. So they just pressure across the map.
Well, INTZ is used to this type of game. If they ever find themselves in this position, I know, and they usually find themselves in this position much, much earlier in the game because of how they play out in these lane swaps in general. But once they get to the mid game, it's generally their type of game. This tournament, especially, the early games have been poor. So they're more than happy to be gifted that early game and to be able to take that early game and move forward with it.
And you look at the gold lead, you look at where that gold has been invested, and for honestly most of it, well, not most of it, but a lot of it, is in the triple QSS, present in the jungler, the mid laner, and the AD carry. But it looks like we're going to have to wait and see as this is going to unfold, but not as long as you maybe thought.
You never know. But
a brief intermission, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
As we gear up for more farming and more pressure across the map.
Bit of a bathroom break, but triple QSS, I do expect Gnar to pick it up as well. As you're in this position, right? You have the positional advantage, and that's one of the major win conditions for this team.
Speeds out.
Not even get him.
2 shots on the curtain call, 2 misses. Yeah. Meron.
But exactly, Rampage needs to start threatening this position, but if they try to, they're going to find themselves in this position right here.
Backside Yang over the wall. Gnar's going to miss, though. Beautiful flash. Excellent disengage from Rampage to pull out of that one, but INTZ should be more than happy to transition this down to the Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they tried for it. That's all it really needed. And Tussle.
Oh, flash out. It's going to make it to safety. In goes the ultimate for Talkers. That's so much damage. Roki caught out and knocked out. No cleanse to safety. No one's dropping down from Rampage quite yet. Yang moving in. He does have the frozen mallet. Dara, no hope to escape. Is going to flash over the wall. The hop, the skip. Looking to make it a little bit more. Yang does so much damage. The team waiting to back him up. Sped up by the Karma Shield. Not quite ready to 4v1. Waiting for an opportunity out, but simply too much damage on the side of INTZ.
Yeah, exactly. And sure, Yang's TP didn't work out because of that perfect flash coming out, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. INTZ, all they really need is the position, and once they have position on Dragon, once they have position perhaps in the future in Baron, they cannot get pushed out. So Rampage constantly having to jock for position, trying to push them off, shove them away from Dragon entirely. It's really difficult, hard to find for them. And so yeah, this is going to be an interesting game where INTZ, they had the lead to start, and question is whether whether RPG are ever going to find a time to take this away.
I think it's just going to be rough. We look at the scaling present on both sides, and a lot of potential opportunities here have just been thwarted by the fact that INTZ can just afford to buy triple QSS. So much pick potential gone. It feels like the one member who can reliably engage for them will be the Gragas. The body slam cask, a pretty solid way to go in, but I mean, when you've only got one engage option against a team where every single member is stronger than your individual members, it just looks grim right now for RPG.
Exactly, and we've seen this is the second Malzahar game in a row. Last one, QSS was not a good option simply because you're too far behind.
Uh-oh.
But if you can dish out the gold, where you are already much stronger than the Malzahar, you now can completely nullify his ulti and any other stunning ability. Then I mean RPG, Rampage, they only have one win condition at this point, and that is getting the necessary picks off. And if they can't do that, then they themselves have to recognize that they've got to find a new way. Maybe it's rushing down Baron. Of course, they don't. The only real champion that can help allow that is Malzahar. And even that's not good enough.
Oh, Gage comes in and Gage goes wide. RPG still trying to make those aggressive moves. It's not Baron, but they're looking to force something in the mid lane. Yang, though, sees the trinket come down. Not going to look for that flank, but ready at a moment's notice to kind of punish RPG for getting aggressive.
Yeah, that's just good map awareness from him. He's always putting them... they've always had to pay attention to where Yang is, because at every point, sure, he's pressuring out in the Shen, but he's not always in that lane. He's very mindful of where he is, where the enemy team is, and if he can look for a flank. And so that's a great state of mind for Yang. Something to always watch out for, because if Rampage ever overstep, ever lose attention, what's happening in the top lane, or I guess now in the bottom side of the map, then they'll pay for it.
And I mean, this is the next step for Rampage well, there's no next step. Let's be honest. It's to continue to wait to see what INTZ are going to do next. But for INTZ, they've set up vision around the Baron pit. They're looking to take control of that area. And Rampage, always a team eager to a fight, are going to have to take one sooner rather than later if INTZ do opt to force this, if they try to get the vision and bait it out.
Exactly. I mean, INTZ is far from being a perfect team. Now, if they were to play this perfectly, all Rampage can hope for is perhaps a Baron steal. That's really all they can do. But if they just wait, be very mindful, attentive of what INTZ is doing, and if they are in the proper positions, yeah, there's one thing you cannot QSS, and that's Gragas ulti. So you better have flash up and prepared for that. So if they can find that one pick, that'd be good for Rampage.
Dara and Tussle taking this opportunity to roam together, looking to maybe set up some vision, support jungle synergy, something that's been critical for so many successful teams in the past. You can see
there's so much tension.
There's so much tension. There's so many circles.
Oh, not even the, yeah. So there we go.
Game now continuing. Keep you guys updated as we move forward. The Baron contest. Not going to come out quite yet, but INTZ getting frisky.
Rampage are just getting, it feels like they have to remain patient. They really do. They're in a position where they're getting a little testy. They're trying to see if they can clear a few more wards, if they have the time and opportunity to do that. But one wrong move, and you will find yourself on the end of an Elise Cocoon. So that's something they have to watch out for.
Oh, position set. INTZ surround the Baron. Ward goes down. They're going to clear it out. A little bit of poke onto Jockster. Are they going to start it?
It's a bit of a problem. Cassio can do it quickly, but they do not have a tank, so they can't really stick onto that Baron. So right now, Rampage are in a good enough position where they can really just stay a bit far away from it.
And you can see on your picture-in-picture as well that the Gnar just consistently being that threat. He could be the tank for the Baron, but instead he's just forcing the Shen to stay in that lane, really limiting his ability to impact the team. And
he can't really even come to tank Baron as well, simply because he does have double offensive items in that Black Cleaver and Frozen Mallet. So even if he were to come and start tanking Baron, they would have to commit to the Baron and hope that Rampage take the fight. And even then, they don't really have much of an engaging force, so they're in a bit of a bind in terms of threatening for Baron. They would just have to really start to look for that proper flank ward positioning, because Yang right now, sure, he has TP right now. That's a great position to be in. They need to shove into the red side jungle. They need to place down as many pinks or creative greens as possible. And then, then you start threatening towards Baron, and you can get that TP play, because right now you cannot force them to respect your Baron. to walk too far up.
Man, it's an interesting position that INTZ have put themselves in with this draft. Yes, they're doing so well across the board, but difficult to get that reliable CC, but no hesitation here when it comes to starting the Infernal. Curtain Call comes out, not going to get it. Secured up by Revolta, and suddenly Rampage maybe looking for a fight. Revolta at half health. Tussle taking so much damage here.
Yeah, I don't think our Rampage want to take this fight.
Oh, Roki backing off. Shenalt does come in. Yang disengaged, making sure that Meganar can't make it. Good chain on the CC.
INTZ can remain here for as long as they want. Ezreal is doing a lot of damage, and he can just pretty much keep poking, keep his position, push forward. Rampage, they have to respect his poke.
No Meganar now, though. It's going to make it easier to chase here, though. The Frozen Mount, very oppressive. Rampage making it out. Just some ults traded on both sides.
They're happy with their trade, though. Of course, they ended up getting that Infernal Dragon. They're going to end up backing. They need to buy more pinks and recharge whatever Karma has in terms of the wards right now. So they're back. That's going to be fine. They need to regain control of Baron because it's going to be tricky for them, and it needs to come off of Yang's TP.
Of course, TP's matched. Equal global pressure for both teams, but INTZ now using the spooky ghosts. Get a little bit of vision down, go in to set up more vision, now trying to play around the Baron, and it seems like INTZ are really hesitating to force out a Baron bait. Hesitating to get really aggressive here, and honestly, we can't blame them. After dropping a game to Lion, a lot of pressure on the team to show up and win here, and Rampage, a team that is so good when it comes to executing those fights that if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that fear, but at the same time, it's just difficult with their composition. They have a lot of good kite back, a really strong kite back. Their only engage option is that Gnar, as I said earlier in Champ Select. And so it looks like right now this is going to be their go button.
Up, trying to flash out, making his way to safety, but Tussle goes in. He misses the memo from the team. GA proc. He's now set to fall, but Curtain Call looking to lay down a bit of damage. Jockstar in trouble. Last shot is going to hit. Maron now on a killing spree. Revolta in trouble. Here's the fight that they're waiting for. Paz moves in. Oh, they don't know what they're going to be able to get because Yang looks to turn it up. Beautiful Gnarl and Rampage are getting ripped through. Yang and Macau on the front lines. Yang, the solo carry to keep that team fight together, and Talker's going to play cleanup on the backside.
That was an incredible team fight from regardless of whether they lost that or not, they were far behind this entire game. Rampage went for it. It looked really good after Tussle got caught, but of course, Cassiopeia is going to be doing an incredible amount of damage, and Yang, when he hit that Meganar status, was able to just rip that team to shreds. So really well done. They finally get the team fight that they were looking for. But Rampage, they must feel disheartened because that was a good re-engage. And it didn't work out for them.
No, that was just... Yang won them the fight. Rampage were starting to win that fight. Shen was in the back line. Shen was disrupting everything, shutting down any potential aggression from Talkers. We'll look at it one more time. And just keep your eyes on Yang.
Yeah, so they were clearing up vision. This was a big point. But they found a way to start that fight. Came off of Roki just getting completely demolished, but Tussle trying to go in. That was a little bit questionable, of course. So now it just came down to what they wanted to do, and that was defend Tussle at all costs. Jockster takes a lot of damage, ends up dying to it. But then just look at Gnar. Getting that Mega Gnar status, 4-man Gnar stun. Really was exactly as you said, that ended the fight entirely.
We came down to it, we panned down to it mid-fight, and I just didn't even understand how big of an impact it had, but now you get to look back on it, and you can see there's a reason you banned Gnar from Yang.
Yeah.
There's a reason we witnessed this man single-handedly carry a game. This Yang is such a threatening split pusher, and when you get Gnar, it feels like you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly, and so we mentioned in Pick Ban about Gnar priority. It's been a really big focus. Especially for Lion as well. That's that team's doing incredibly well. Terrell is a Gnar player, and even though he played Irelia last game, one of his games was based off of the Gnar play. And if you play really, if you are known for your Gnar play,
Oh, Yang knocked back,
Oh
but he's just going
my
to throw
God.
RPG in the delivery system. But Yang taking so much damage. In comes the Shenton, and no one has dropped from RPG. They're looking to make the shutdowns. Macau is pulling back. Paz is on the front line. Jockster now set to follow the Karma, making sure that they don't have the safety and escape. But Talker's moving onto the front lines, looking to keep the fight going. Roki throwing down a decent amount of damage. The silence onto Macau. And RPG, it doesn't matter how far behind they are. They consistently find edge in these fights.
yeah, so Yang getting the scoop towards his team wasn't going to be good enough because there's still enough mobility to get back towards your team. Rampage able to save that out, get 2 kills going for them, Yang and Jockster. So in the end of the day, they could not chase. They thought they could chase down the rest of the INTZ squad, but of course you're going up against Cassiopeia and Ezreal. That kite back is simply too strong even without Karma. So they really, if they do want to regain control of this game, they don't have Baron. They got outscaled. They need to continue to outplay, essentially.
Tussle says, no, that's my blue buff. Interesting choice. We'll watch the fight one more time. You can just see the execution here.
Yeah, he gets Yang towards his team, which is a double-edged sword, but they're able to take him down. Really well played. Shen W blocks a lot of autos coming through, so that really helps out the tanky lineup here.
Yeah, of course, not captive audience. Deadly Flourish. Thank you, Riot Naming Convention. Making sure to lock down the opposition there. And I mean, really, Talkers and Macau continuing to do what they need to do for the team, but you said double-edged sword to throw Yang into your team. Double-edged sword to throw in a Shen alted Gragas.
That's true.
All coming out one more time. Revolta tanking this one up. It does go into the air, but that means a little more damage onto Macau. A little more damage. Force shot not going to connect as they pull out on the range. Paz running to safety. Yang and Mega Gnar.
His Mega Gnar, his ability to deal with Mega Gnar has always been incredible, it seems. He's always getting to that point right when his team needs it to.
Oh, Cass goes in. Revolta into the back line. Locket comes out, but INTZ are going to grab their first inhibitor.
There we go. They need to start getting back
at
now.
the hip. Yang caught out. He is the mini Gnar. Chain CC coming in. Does connect onto Talkers. Dara backing off. Rampage. Have they overextended? Paz dashing back over the wall there.
The best thing about Gnar, especially in this composition, even though his weakest point is his mini Gnar, then they don't have any engage options. That's also his strongest point as well. Of course, he still has that Frozen Mallet, and on top of that, he can constantly spam out his Q, so they can always look to kite back if they didn't have enough kite back options. So it must be infuriating for Rampage to even start a fight. They have that composition where they want to force something, but they can't get anything off of him.
And they're just at such a scary point. Of course, Elder Dragon, a relatively easy take for INTZ. And yes, Rampage are in such a huge pressure point to steal it. But unlike Baron, it doesn't really give them anything. One stack simply not enough. I mean, INTZ, you look at it, they are going to be able to kill anyone if they get that. They're going to be able to end the game in a moment's notice. So RPG have to contest it, have to look for that fight if INTZ decide to go there. But even if they win out, even if they manage to get it away, they don't get anything from it.
Exactly. And I mentioned it earlier about Gnar getting QSS.
Ooh,
oh, they got
nice
a good pick.
wall-up read.
Have to flash away, which is actually incredibly impactful. Gragas not having flash, not even being able to get that one engage that they really do need. It's going to be, well, perhaps he can still get it. All he really needs is that one ulti, but it's going to be that much harder.
Now pushing in for INTZ, looking to get the vision control down. And as you said, limited options now for RPG. Almost no options to find and engage. Need to wait on that flash, a 5-minute cooldown.
It's going to be very hard for INTZ to start up on this Elder Dragon without getting a fight.
Forward, Tussle, they know he doesn't have flash. They're looking to close it out. He has the GA. So Shen, is he going to arrive? No. Looks like not going to be delivered there, so he has to pull back. Tussle makes it over the wall. The Mystic shot, more than enough to shut him down. Yang moving forward, and INTZ just going to pull off and move right to the Elder Dragon.
You have to respect their fight potential. You have to wait for them to start up on that Elder Dragon because they can't really tank it. Perhaps if Gnar is there, but you have to wait for them to tank it before you really look to start to threaten. Right now, they just weren't in position. Of course, they have no vision of this dragon area.
Honestly, with Elder Dragon ticking down, we finally get to see that icon. That was sick.
Nice.
13k gold lead. 5 stacks of Elder Dragon. Greg is still dead. I don't see any way that RPG come back from this.
Yeah, their one option was just playing it out as safe as possible. Use your blue trinkets. They still had some blue trinkets available to them before they had to look to face check, but they're not even doing that. So this is really difficult. now they've lost their second inhib, and they can easily lose their third if INTZ choose to do so.
Rookie's been hit by like 4 abilities, and all the burn damage is just cutting through.
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, very close there. Is going to disable the home guard's proc for a little bit. But now they're just going to move to take their third inhibitor. This is a calm and confident closeout from INTZ. They're not looking to overstep one bit, just small advantages. And honestly, RPG, they're not going to be able to contest Baron. They're not going to be able to stop INTZ, and it's just a long, slow goodbye here as INTZ now look to close this game.
Yeah, 3 inhibs down, as you said. They're going to go for Baron. It seems like an impossibility for them to even contest that. Perhaps all they can really hope for is Tussle stealing that. But with that being said, INTZ, of course, they're expecting that, and they know his splash timer is still down. So if he even shows his face on any of the multiple wards that are going to be placed, he's going to get killed again.
Grim fate for Rampage. Really looking to find a win here, but INTZ, the redemption story. Tussle moving forward, maybe looking for a bit more. This could be the final fight. Yang has the Mega Gnar. Tussle trying to pull back. Out comes the disengage. Good ultimate coming through. Paz now on the front lines. A lot of the Mega Gnar timer burning down. Rampage can't get... Have to be careful. Don't want to get caught out here. Silence as well to make sure he can't hop the wall. But while they're pulling back, Baron drops in favor of INTZ. Yang, one man playing the bouncer, so his team could just clean that up.
And all 3 waves are starting to crash here. This is actually the worst moment you can possibly imagine if you're Rampage.
Dara, no hesitation to move to the front lines, though, blocking what damage he can. Tussle goes in. Tussle looking to get taken down. The snare guaranteed as it connects. Ezreal ult along the backside. He drops. No GA left. Yang, quick QSS, knocks 2 into the wall. That's going to be it. INTZ showboating as they run rampant through the base. Rampage, a team caught out and knocked down as their final turret falls. As the inhibitor drops, INTZ pick up the win.
That looked like a scenes of just a Zerg rush at the end. Entire baroned up waves of every super minion coming in, crashing at one moment. It was just a clean win from INTZ from start to finish. Though it was a long game, there was never a real moment where you really believed Rampage had an opening.
No, I mean, there were a few times where maybe Rampage as a team we felt could have an opening because we've seen them outplay.
Yeah.
Because we've seen them execute so well in team fights, but realistically, there's really no shot for them to come back for the majority of that game. And clean play from INTZ, a step up from what we saw against Lion Gaming. And it's clear that loss really shook some sense to them in terms of how they wanted to play the early game. And I honestly, Revolta on this Elise was so much better for them than that Gragas had been. He just looks much more confident on these early game junglers.
Exactly, and one big point to really focus on is how much respect INTZ gave Rampage. They give him a lot of respect, and it just started from level 1 when they had that simple poke coming in. Look at that result coming in. Jockster and Revolta really just taking that one auto attack to get that last kill. It just snowballed from there on forward.
Yeah, and really beautiful execution here on this tower dive as we just kind of run through some of the highlights. Of course, Rampage gets something back there. So small fumbles from INTZ, but short of that, they really don't make very many mistakes. And
yeah, they didn't show it either. On top of that one, they also got the first turret gold coming out of them. And every team fight they were getting was on their own soil. They had a lot of vision just plastered around the map. Rampage, they were walking around a dark, dark night. That's how it felt like, because there was really nothing to guide them.
And even this one fight, as you see it play out on your screen, it looks so good for Rampage. We're like, how can they possibly be getting kills in this fight? How can they possibly be winning? But then a 4-man Gnarl kind of shatters the dreams there. And even in this instant, honestly, Rampage able to get a few kills back, able to stop the pressure coming in from INTZ, but they were just buying time for themselves. It never felt like they took control of the game. Still an excellent team for punishing the enemies over aggression, but in the end, not enough to earn them anything back.
Exactly. And it just comes back to the composition as well that INTZ was running, because even though Rampage were able to get certain teamfights working out well for them, getting one pick or another, they couldn't then snowballed out to a complete victory. Every time they walked forward, Cassio and Ezreal just constantly looking to either poke or just get a lot of damage down, actually. Just meant that they had no way, they had no options to continue fighting.
And while we were skeptical of the Karma pick, it felt like that gave them a lot of flexibility because the counter-engage potential for the Casio was very legitimate, but so was the Kite potential when you have that Karma. I mean, Karma, Ezreal, Casio, those are 3 hard targets to get onto, to stick onto, but then, I mean, if you ever actually make it in there, if you ever actually get the opportunity, if you overstep, Casio can turn it in an instant. You know you're chasing down. You know which direction you're facing when you're running for blood, and you're instantly going to get stunned up, and there's just too much damage present there.
Great point. And on top of that, like, every single time I see a composition like this, especially like a good example is like a Janna pick, right? Janna pick could mean so much, but at the same time mean so little. Where in the right hands, it could do so much in disengaging from the rest of, disengaging in a perfect team fight, a perfect start. But just being able to execute that is fairly difficult. So a lot of teams are running either hard engage or just for those, or going straight for team fights and getting just stack up wombo combo, especially something that we've seen in that first game from Rampage, right, where they had that Lee Sin kick into an Alistar headbutt pulverizes. That can just win you a team fight. But it looked like INTZ, par for the course, they play a smart game and they really were able to execute.
And I like the Alistar ban that came out. I mean, it's not a champion that most teams look to prioritize, but when we look at how Dara plays, when we look at those crucial engages that are like the end-all, be-all for these team fights, if he had been able to follow into some of those Gragas engages, this may have been a completely different game. And I feel like INTZ, as you said, took the time. They looked at what their opponents were playing. They looked at what their opponents were good at. They took it off the table, and they made sure that if we play smart, we can definitely close this out.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're going to go for that composition entirely, if they're going to go for a kite back, taking Alistar away, taking out that hard engage option that especially Dara was looking towards was especially beneficial. That meant so much more because they gave them a lot more space and room to kite back when they found themselves in those poor situations and close out a lot of options that this team had in Rampage.
And additionally, I mean, individual proficiency coming in from Yang was pretty impressive. Winning his lane, you know, innately winning his lane just based on the pick that he pulled out and his proficiency in that matchup. We've seen that matchup go 50-50. We've seen that matchup go favor the Shen or the Gnar. Truly kind of that skill situation. Yang outclassing the opposition, and then when the jungle support finally came through, he was able to get those kills. He was able to set up that dive. Yes, he does drop a little blemish on his otherwise perfect record this game, but definitely a, you know, an all-star performance coming in for him.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's one question. Of course, he did go for that Black Cleaver. We see that a lot, and people, they just want to deal with that matchup, right? We see the people going for Frozen Mallet instead if they want to, if it's in a difficult matchup, sure, but at the same time, if they want to play towards these team fights, we saw him go both, right? Which just means he just wants to split push, demolish that matchup, force at least a numbers game where multiple people are coming towards him, and the moment that happens, they can get a Baron. Now, on Rampage, a plus for them was that they actually played fairly calm, and according to that, they didn't really abuse their blue trinkets as well as they should have. That probably would have given them a lot more chances to really play out and stall the game out for them. But in the end of the day, INTZ played a much smarter game, especially around their top laner.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think Rampage, when we look at what we expected from this team, still have consistently proven to us that they can come back into a game, that they're never really out, and that they're really smart about playing around their strengths in a team fighter. When it comes to execution, yes, they fumbled a lot. That level 1, those early game jungle clears, not respecting the potential for INTZ, not utilizing those blue trinkets, a lot of small mistakes. But at their core, they do have some of these very clear strengths, both in teamfight execution and mostly in patient play as well. They did not give up nearly as much as I expected them to. But of course, on the opposite side, INTZ just were happy to say, you don't want to give anything up, we'll just play a slow game. We'll take little advantages here and there, jungle vision. We'll start to bleed you out. We'll start to whittle down these towers. And it worked out more than well for them.
See, and that's the wonders of it, is the best of one round robin that we do end up seeing, right? Is that yesterday we had a lot of questions for this team and whether they're going to look to adapt because they did perform poorly up against Lion. They come back today, look completely different than they did in both games. Sure, it started with that small snowball, but if the actual fact that they took advantage of that one snowballed it into something much larger, into a massive map advantage, is a great thing for them. that they should be really happy about.
And I agree, because when we look at how that they lost and the pressure that was on them, the Brazilian community is incredibly passionate. So when they lost that game, you got to imagine there were plenty of people who lost faith, who were willing to count them out, who were willing to be like, you guys no longer are the team that we're rooting for. And for them to stay composed despite that pressure, to stay composed despite maybe some of the hate that was coming their way, shows an excellent mental game. And that's what we like to see from these more experienced teams. And playing on home soil, losing games that you're not supposed to, coming back and still showing a clean game, still showing a confident game is excellent for the future of your team.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got to 100% Brazil's got to be showing that same love as well, and love and hope. And you got to start disregarding that hate entirely, because you got to think of it as this. The people who hate, they're going to be loud. They're going to be a minority, fairly vocal, as I say. But people who are hoping, it seems like their answers got shown in that one game.
It looks good.
It looked good.
I mean, definitely got to look out. And here is your MVP for that game. I don't think anyone's surprised. 4-2-7, maybe not the most all-star scoreline. Very strong farm, of course, but I want you to look back on this game and remember that four-man Gnar ultimate. Not the dying to the tower. Let's forget that. The four-man Gnar ultimate. The endless pressure. And really just the almost no impact that the Shen was able to have outside of one or two ultimates.
Yeah, that major play really, that was a highlight moment. For me, a major moment was the fact that not only was he doing incredibly well in his lane, but he was very mobile, always walking through the jungle. So whenever his team was getting pushed in, he would immediately just abandon his push and look to see if he can get a nice flank going for his team. So his flank awareness was always solid. So that was great for him, great for Yang. 100% he deserved that one.
Yeah, Yang, an insane performance. And I think for Rampage, they have to look at the top lane and reevaluate if they want their pick priority to be, what they want to look to. Because we've seen a lot of success for them on tanks. And Gnar, of course, fills a very unique role, I think. But I think we're just seeing that Gnar a little bit stronger of a pick. Maybe this is just the individual outplay from Yang. Maybe this is just his individual talent. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Shen should be the priority here.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to see what they're going to end up going for. Shen, Gnar. Gnar's just, as you said, far too strong. So is it going to get banned? Is it going to be a pick? I guess we'll find out.
Not entirely sure, but of course, we're going to go to a quick break as we gear up for our next game. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.